Many companies around the world have great corporate philanthropy and corporate social responsibility programs. They do a lot of good in the world. And this kind of makes a mockery out of this dominant model of business as disconnected from society. Yet some people argue that they're doing this really just because there's a link to profits. And this so-called business case is what's really driving things. I'm not sure how much this matters in the real world, as long as people are doing some good. It might matter to economic theorists, but I'm more concerned about the good that gets done in the real world. But there is something missing here. Oftentimes, these programs are done as add-ons to the business model without having too much overlap. It's almost as if you think capitalism and business are sort of morally questionable, you got to do something to make up for it. And oftentimes, the do something to make up for the bad is what corporate philanthropy and corporate social responsibility are aimed at. Or it seems that way sometimes. So if we could think about how do we build these activities in to the very purpose of a business, we might get a more robust way of understanding business in society. Of course, people's hearts are in the right place here. But sometimes we do have this idea that we're making up for some bad stuff. One European CEO of a big multinational said to me, look, corporate responsibility is the most important issue of this century. The winners are going to be those companies who act responsibly and are perceived to act responsibly. It's about being responsible and being perceived to be responsible. But should companies get a pass on the ill effects of their business practices, on the bad effects of some of their business practices, because they have a terrific corporate responsibility program or philanthropy program? By the way, Lehman Brothers, now bankrupt, with its bankruptcy being one of the causal factors in the global financial crisis, had a great CSR program as well. And these programs do a lot of good. Goldman Sachs has been one of the most vilified banks in the global financial crisis. Yet you might be surprised to learn that Goldman Sachs has a state-of-the-art corporate philanthropy, corporate social responsibility program, and it's had one for some time. They have a program that they call 10,000 Women. It's a 5-year, $100 million global initiative to help grow local economies and bring about more shared prosperity by providing 10,000 underserved women entrepreneurs with business and management education, access to mentors, networks, helps in starting and getting into businesses. They have a program called 10,000 Small Businesses in a similar way. And Goldman Sachs Gives is a donor-advised fund from which current and former Goldman Sachs executives can partner and recommend grants. Their Community Teamworks program is a global volunteer initiative that allows Goldman Sachs employees to take the day out of the office and volunteer with not-for-profits. The problem is corporate philanthropy and corporate social responsibility really don't stray very far from the dominant story. It's still pretty much shareholders and owners that really count. Even a recent idea by Harvard professor Michael Porter called shared value does the same thing, because Porter argues that it's not just economic value, it's economic value and social value. And you have to think about a business as creating both of those kinds of value. And that's right. However, the very distinction itself between economic and social commits something I want to call the separation fallacy. The separation fallacy says, hey, it makes sense to talk about business on the one hand and ethics and values and society on the other. And I don't really think that does make sense. I want to give you an example. If I hire you, have I done something with economic consequences? I think so. You have money to pay your bills, etc. But have I done something that has social consequences? Well, yes, I may have put you on a track to move up in the world. I may give you a pride and autonomy, a sense of mastery over what you've done. They can't be measured in purely economic terms. So I've done something that's social and economic. If I sell you a computer, Have I done something that's economic? Well, sure, maybe you can earn your living with that computer, but I've done something social as well. You can connect to other people. You can figure out how to follow your favorite teams. There's a lot you can do with that. And so dividing it up as this part's economic, this part's social is, in my view, a kind of a fool's errand. Business creates value. And it creates value for customers, for suppliers, for employees, for communities, and the people with the money. And thinking about how it creates value is more interesting than thinking about whether it's what part of that value is economic, what part of that value is social. The problem with these first two models of business and society, corporate philanthropy and corporate social responsibility, could be illustrated by the following conversation. Someone says to me, well, I know your business really produces great products and services. People want those products and services. Your employees really like working there. You treat them with dignity and respect, and they're great jobs. Suppliers like to do business with you because you make them better, they make you better. You're a good citizen in the community. There are lots of ways to do that, but you figured out your way. And you're making money hand over fist. What I want to know is, are you socially responsible? If you're doing all that stuff right, it's hard to understand what social responsibility adds here. Now, corporate philanthropy and corporate social responsibility are two ways of connecting business in society. There's a lot of good that's done with both of those. And I don't think it goes far enough. What I'd like you to think about in the discussion forums is, what are some companies that you consider socially responsible? Why do you think they're socially responsible? What's their underlying business model? And how is that connected to the idea of social responsibility?